I'm back. No nausea, no headache. Testing out the new head mic today. We'll see how the workout goes. We'll see how the sound is. It's currently 11:23 p.m. I'm T minus, what, like 40 hours out from provs? 2 days, basically. Not peaking for it. It's just kind of going to be a competition. I just need to get a total at it. So, not worried about too much. Still in the middle of training, gaining strength, so didn't really peak for it. But yeah, we'll push some weight today, see how things go, and then have some fun on the weekend. I want to talk a little bit about rehab today and how a lot of rehab sucks. I get a lot of people that come to me, or just being in the space, like see my friends, etc., that are like, yeah, I've tried rehab and it didn't work, so I don't know if you'll be able to help me. They're like, well, I've already tried rehab, so what's the point in trying rehab again? But then it's like, okay, well, what was your rehab? I'm like, well, I went to this sports physio or sports chiro or whatever, sports something. They're just saying that in their name so that they can get more people. And then they're like, yeah, I did that. Got put on these electric pads for a bit, had the compression boots on or something, or got some acupuncture, all these passive modalities that are just relieve pain, right? They don't help with recovery. They don't help with strength and X, Y, Z. And it's like, okay, and then like, what exercises did you do? It's like, oh, I did like single leg glute bridges and bird dogs and clamshells and all these really low load exercises. And like, yeah, I did that for 8 weeks, twice a week, and then I hurt myself again. Like, well, yeah, you just did mostly pain relief and then a little bit of low load exercises. Go over that more. I'm going to hit the set first. Things could feel better. Things could also feel worse. So I'm going to take that again. Straighten out the rack here. Yeah, so it's just like pain relief. What those modalities do. And it's short term. And then just low load exercises. Like those are exercises that I give my like 70 and 80-year-old patients. And they usually progress away from them. And not even after 8 weeks, like before 8 weeks. Yeah, those movements can be good. They can be a good entry point, right? They have their purpose. They have their place. There's nothing special about certain movements in general. Like those certain movements, it's not like, yeah, you do a bird dog and your pain's going to be gone and you fix all your stability issues. Like, okay, what about anything that pushes against your body with way more force than a bird dog produces? You're not going to be stable against it. There are all these low load exercises that can get people moving. They can reduce pain for a little bit. That's awesome. And then same with the passive modalities. That's awesome. But it's like, where's the progression, right? If your rehab isn't actually like progressing you, that's not rehab. That's just some BS. I just loaded 170. I realized I was planning on taking 120 again, but screw that, I guess. Yeah, so it's no fault of yours or any person that's like the patient that, they're getting prescribed these exercises and they're just doing these exercises and just kind of getting this pain relief. Yeah, it can feel really good in the moment. And that's what can trick people and really get that buy-in is like, yeah, after the appointment, I feel great. I feel great during it. Like, this is definitely doing something. But then like later that day or the next day, you're like, hey, I'm not really feeling better. Or then you go to play your sport again after 8 weeks or participate in your sport again after 8 weeks, you get hurt again and your body's just not ready for it. And you're like, oh, I'm weaker and now I suck. Because the exercises didn't progress. They did not prepare you for the activity that you have to do. They're just cookie cutter exercises. Um, Not really thought through the basis on like why. They don't really understand like what exactly it's doing. They're like, it was building core stability. Well, what is core stability? It's the ability of your core muscles to resist movement. And it's like all core muscles need to be able to do that. And surrounding musculature. It's like, okay, well, where's your core end, right? It's like, it's not just your abs. It's like, you could argue, it's like, okay, your hip musculature all the way up to like your shoulder musculature almost, right? Like anything that attaches to your trunk could be considered core. Um, yeah. Anyways, we'll hit this set. Oh, 170 felt better than 120. It might look like a fancy place and you're getting all these toys on you and you think, oh, this is amazing for recovery. But it's not really doing much for recovery. And especially when you have an injury and you're needing rehab, it's not always all about recovery. A lot of it is about like, okay, your body's going to heal as it heals, but we want to then get you ready to do your sport again, right? We want to prepare your body. It's about keeping the rest of your body in shape, and it's about, okay, how do we train around that injury while the tissue heals in its own right, and then like making sure it's healing well, which those modalities don't really do. Again, they're just pain relief. The biggest thing for like actual tissue healing, like things don't speed up tissue healing other than like, the juice, right? So it's like, okay, how do we just get you to be back to performing? Certain injuries, like, okay, you just need to let the thing heal and then you need to strengthen it up. Like, let's take a tendon injury, for example. It's like, okay, rest, stretching, isometrics, eccentrics, concentrics, just heavy slow resistance, plyometrics. No real difference in time frame of healing for it, and like no real big differences in terms of like resolving the tendinopathy. The biggest thing is like if you actually load it, it's better than rest because it actually strengthens the tendon as long as you're not kind of like re-aggravating it. So that's kind of like the caveat and like the nuance with it. Like in terms of like actual healing, like if it was a like a partial tear, it's kind of like, okay, yeah, you need to let the tear heal and then strengthen the tendon after that. If it's like inflammation in the tendon, again, it's like, okay, you let that inflammation come down and then you strengthen the tendon after that. It's not like a super hard line in the sand. It's like more gray and like, okay, we gradually start doing a little bit more. Where's your tolerance so that we can kind of keep loading it? And then the tendon fibers are healing in a nice, good line, right? Like your body will lay them down all crazy. And then with load, it kind of adapts to that and your body goes, hey, we need tendons to be all in line and straight so that it can resist these pulling forces from the muscle and allow you to produce force. So then it kind of like eats up the ones that are all crazy and all over the place, which were just kind of like quick patchwork, and then builds new ones that are more in line and it gets stronger. Kind of got off on a tangent. Can't remember exactly what I was talking about. Yeah. The sports rehab places, and they give you these low load exercises. Those low load exercises aren't going to prepare your body, right? They're not going to load the muscles well. They're not going to load the tendons well enough. They're not going to be like, let's say you're a power lifter, right? And you got to go and squat 500, 600 pounds, and you have a knee injury, and for 8 weeks, you're basically just resting it, getting some like electric pads around your knee, and doing like some really like easy glute bridges and stuff. And they're like, oh, it's your hip. You're getting knee valgus, which is not a problem at all. You're getting knee valgus, so you need to strengthen your hip. Well, Actually, there was just a paper that was kind of published that shows like, hey, the stronger your hip is, you might be more likely to knee valgus because that lengthens the glutes and then they're being worked more compared to adductors. But again, this is it's like you got to ask yourself these questions. A lot of time, it's like these practitioners that you're going to see don't really know the answers and don't really know the evidence behind it and don't really critically think behind it. So there's a lot of flaws in what's done as like sports rehab. But now again, I got off on a tangent. I can't remember where I was going. But yeah, so they give you these low load exercises, and then you come back and you're like, okay, I'm gonna squat, even start easy. I'm gonna do a set of 5 at 75%, right? Like that should be a nice easy RPE. Like it should be like RPE 6, and then you go and it's like RP10 because you've just been doing low load exercises for 8 weeks and you've now decreased your work capacity, and then your knees sore as fuck after because your tendons aren't used to that load and they've atrophied, and now doing that was way above it, right? It's like, okay, well, shit. Guess that low load exercise didn't help. I'm really liking the head mic though. It clears up the shirt, doesn't need to be pinched together. I'm not worried about the mic slamming into like my neck and chin and stuff. So good placement. So what's the point of all my angry rambling? Am I just angry? Maybe. Do I just like to ramble and rant? Also maybe. But the real key behind it is that, rehab shouldn't be easy. Rehab needs to challenge you, right? Like I always say this, if it doesn't challenge you, it doesn't change you. And if you're only focused on like pain, this is beside that. Like if you're only focused on pain and your rehab is just about, okay, let's get you out of pain. Like that can be done in so many ways, but that's missing a much bigger picture, right? Like your rehab should be preparing you to not get back in pain. Your rehab should be preparing you to not get injured again as well, right? Like your rehab should be preparing you to do what you need to do. It's not too difficult to get like most people out of pain. Natural history is great. Like 90% of people get better just by sitting around. But the biggest thing is like, hey, if you like actually rehab properly, then it's like, okay, now you can perform again, and now you're less likely to get injured because everything's strong. Maybe you're like more aware of things and better coordinated with certain movements. You could even say like there's all these little things that maybe matter, maybe don't matter. But then it's also like, okay, now you also understand rehab better, have probably a better understanding of pain. So another really big factor in it is the psychological aspect, right? And this is why I always teach the 3 light system to everyone that I see, because it gives them a tool that they can just use on their own and be like, okay, well, now I know if I get a little boo-boo, I don't need to go see Kevin and I don't need to go see some other person and get like all this passive care on me and feel good and be pampered. Like if you want to be pampered, awesome. There's no problem with that. But that's not helping you get better faster, and that's not helping you get back to performing necessarily, right? Like you need to challenge yourself. You need to work hard. Rehab should be hard. And like the person giving you rehab should, if they don't already understand your sport well, they should be like researching it, right? They should go and watch footage of the sport and understand like, okay, they need to do X, Y, and Z. They should be asking you and being like, okay, like what do you need to train a lot when you're training? Like what do you do really, right? And it's like, okay, now they get a better understanding. They get a better understanding of the lows that your body's going to be facing. They get a better understanding of like, okay, what cardiovascular fitness do you need to keep? And that can all be and should all be part of rehab, right? Like if you have some endurance aspect to your sport and you're out because of an ankle injury so you can't run, and your rehab is just getting you to do the fucking ABCs in the pool and like get some stim on your ankle, you know what's going to be the like hardest thing when you get back to your sport? You're going to be sucking wind. you're not going to be able to keep up. You're not going to be able to breathe. So you should be working with your practitioner. Your practitioner should be working with you, really, right? Like you're the lead of your rehab, to keep your cardiovascular fitness up. Help you at least like brainstorm ideas on how to do some cardio, and like what you can do, so that every system and every part of your body is still up to performance level, and then it's just that one area that's like, okay, you kind of let it heal, and then as it heals, it's like, okay, what can we do now? Okay, you can do these exercises now it'll get you a little bit stronger. Okay, now you've reached this milestone and things are more tolerable, you can do these exercises now. Okay, now you've reached this milestone, awesome, you're cleared for practice, and you can do these exercises now, and these exercises are going to be hard as fuck, so that when you reach that next milestone, you can go in and you can participate in your sport full out, right? Like, rehab needs to challenge you. I'm also going to be totally honest. I have straight up said to patients that I like know previously and like know better, they say, oh, like I tried X, Y, and Z, and I just straight up go, you didn't actually try rehab. The person did not give you rehab. They fooled you. They took your money. Whether it was they knew and they were lazy, or they just don't know better and they think they were actually really helping you, I don't know. I'm not one to say. I can't look into their mind. Most of the time, it's probably the latter, and they just don't know better. But yeah, it's like, hey, you didn't get what you paid for, and I'm sorry that happened to you. But sometimes you just need to tell your patients that. Sometimes I just need to tell all of you of that, right? And you need to be like, damn, I didn't get rehab. Maybe I'm not broken. Maybe I just need a better intervention, and I can get there. I just need to take better steps and then actually progress. I need to start off really small and take small steps, but there's still progression. They're not just the same low load exercises every week. It's a small step that starts challenging me and meets me at my level, but is still challenging me so that I level up. That's rehab. That has felt better. Oh well. I was going and seeing places to move to today. Big day of work. So like it's midnight right now. Never work out at this time. So for all the things that went on today and how life has been the last few weeks, I'm all right with how that moved. Like I've had people tell me that they've been told just to not deadlift, that they shouldn't be deadlifting, or that they're not going to deadlift again, or they're not going to squat again, and they're power lifters. Like, this is my sport. This is my outlet, right? Like, this part of their identity, and they're like, well, now what? Like, and it goes like, that's actually a really good point that I just brought up. That goes way deeper than just, hey, here's this movement that you shouldn't do. Now you're telling this person that's part of their identity and such a big part of their life, and probably even a big part of their social circle and their social health, right? A lot of people, when they go to the gym, they go with the gym buddy sometimes. Sometimes it's also not their social health, but it's their like private solitude and it's their time to themselves. So it's like mental health that way, that it's like, hey, this is my me time. Like I have patients who are parents, and they're like, yeah, when I get to go to the gym, that's my me time. And it's like, that's my time when it's like not hectic and I'm just focusing on me. I'm working my body, I'm feeling good, and like listen to a podcast or music or whatever, and just, they're in their own little world for that hour, and then they get to go and do whatever. So by telling them, oh no, you do this movement, and maybe they love that movement, it goes further than just that movement. It's now affecting possibly their social health, their identity. You could be throwing them into a bit of an identity crisis, because now like, wait, hey, I was a powerlifter for 5 years, and now I can't do my squat and deadlift, or I'm told that I'll never squat and deadlift again, or never squat and deadlift to that level again. Well, then who am I, right? Like, now they need to find this whole new identity. So it goes so much deeper than just the movements. And oh, it makes me so mad and baffles me when typically doctors, family doctors, surgeons say don't do X movement, but it's not just them. So I'm not saying, hey, that profession sucks. And it's not all of them, right? It's just some of them. But typically, more often than not, ratio wise, physicians, surgeons will say, hey, don't do X movement. And I've had so many people that do that. And it just makes me so mad because it's like, oh, they are just not thinking about the person as a whole. They're not thinking about the effect those words have on them and how afraid it makes them. Because then sometimes it's like, I've had patients where they're like, oh, I've been told not to deadlift. And they don't pick anything off the ground because they're afraid to actually bend over. Because they're like, at what level does it go from just picking something off of the ground to a deadlift? Like, this is why words matter so much too, is like a healthcare professional. You need to think about, and not even a healthcare professional, personal trainers, coaches, anyone. You need to think about what you're saying. Your words have so much impact. Everyone who sees you, and if you've been out there and been told by anyone not to do something and it's caused you distress, I hope that this is helping you, that you can get back to something. But as a professional, like if you say something to someone, that has such big impacts. And a lot of people don't understand the breadth and the vastness of the impact that it has, right? Like how far does it spread? Like it's not just in the gym. It's their identity. It's their daily life. All these movements. Now they're becoming afraid. Now they're moving less. Now that makes them just work out less and move less overall. Now they have this broken mentality. Now they start physically declining. Now they're in a walker because they've stopped exercising. This is like a big downstream thing. And it's like, a lot of people say, it's not that deep. It is that deep. You're just not thinking deep enough. You're just only looking at the surface level when the thing is a fucking Mariana's Trench. Oh, I'm getting heated. I need us to do a set. Words matter so much. I know this isn't talking about how rehab needs to challenge you anymore, but I have a patient. They've given me explicit consent to share information. This is all going to be anonymous anyways. So I have a patient, right? They've had bilateral, so both knees, partially replaced. And they were told, you're only going to get like 90 degrees of flexion again. And you're just going to walk, and you're going to need a walker by a certain time. And they were like, no, we're going to get more than that. So they got a little bit past that when they were discharged, which is awesome. They worked hard after too, but they never really got like solid rehab for years. And they came to see me, and they hadn't done a bodyweight squat below parallel in years. And now they squat below parallel with over 100 pounds on their back. They deadlift over 200 pounds, right? They were told, no, you can't, no, you won't, and they didn't, right? So then they never had rehab that pushed them. They never got rehab that actually challenged them, right? And I guess this is where it ties back in. But yeah, so it's like they came to see me, and it's like, yeah, why can't you? Yeah, you can, right? Like it's you can do that, right? Like I have them at like 120 degrees of knee flexion, no problem, doing Nordics, squatting below parallel, deadlifting over 200 pounds, and now they no longer are worried going upstairs, climbing over things. They're no longer struggling to get on and off of the ground, right? Like life was getting tough for them. There was a lot of limitations on them. And now by getting them to squat and do all this and that, they've gained so much more confidence in their body, and they can go on vacations and enjoy. They walk as far as they want to now. They climb up steps. They do days with 20,000 steps in them and climb 30 flights of stairs, and it's not a problem for them. And they had years stolen from them because they weren't told that they could, right? And then they didn't get rehab that challenged them. And that shit just makes me so angry. I guess, make this all corny. If you are out there and you've been told you can't or you shouldn't, that is wrong. You can and you should. You just need to find where you're at right now and work with a professional. I have legal liability, I gotta say that. Find a professional that'll help guide you. This is not personal advice. Always clear everything with a professional. That'll help you find where you're at and will help progress you slowly and take the appropriate steps to challenge you in your rehab to get you back to doing the activities you want to do or that you need to do. Don't listen to these shitty practitioners that tell you no. On a personal note, I need to get my squat up. My squat has not been going amazing. Hasn't been going terrible, but hasn't been going amazing. My deadlift just started clicking again. My bench is still where it's at. I'm down 20 pounds now, so that's awesome. But yeah, my numbers have felt the cut. And I just need to work a little harder, I need to challenge myself. Need to work a little harder. Need to grow them quads. Get them juicy legs. And just move more weight. Felt off. Also, quick update. Switching back to sumo. See how that feels. And if you hate sumo and you're going to make some kind of like, oh, you're pulling sumo comment, I'm definitely noticing in my lifts that my quads, maybe glutes too, but definitely quads feel like one of the limiting factors. My squat, like the main limiting factor. And then on deadlifts, I'm thinking my back's real strong, but my glutes seem to be, I think my back has to pick up slack for my glutes, So might try to get do 8 weeks where I'm still doing lizartures and stuff, but maybe a little bit less, and then focusing a little more on getting some juicy glutes. But I mean, with saying that, doing the bottom half zercher deadlifts really hits the glutes good. So I don't know. We'll see. I mean, in the end, everything has to get stronger anyways. So I'm just kind of spitballing and thinking out loud here. What do you guys think? Or what are your training approaches when, if you're noticing something? Like, I'm gonna throw it back to you. I want to see it in the comments. Like, okay, when you're noticing a lift's having some trouble, do you pay attention to where you're weak and try to strengthen them, or do you pay attention to where you're strong and try to be like, okay, I'm really going to strengthen that part and have it carry me? Or do you do a little bit of both and kind of like, find some balance? No, I'm late. Personally, I do a little bit of both. Usually, I try to go like, okay, I'm gonna take where I'm strong and push that and see where it gets me, and then when that kind of starts to plateau, I reassess and go, okay, I'm gonna at least like work on my weak parts a little bit. Um, but I don't stress about it too much or like really nitpick it because ultimately the body's going to move how the body's going to move. You need a lot of gains out of just like, programming your main lifts well. And then your body will progress as it needs to and as it will. So it's like, okay, really focus on those. And then these little details might help give you little boosts. Kind of thing. That's the way I kind of look at it. And then, yeah, I really use my accessories to expand my movement capabilities a lot of the time. And it's like, have some fun, and just generally be resilient in a unit. Like, I want to be able to do a lot of things. I don't want to just be good at moving like that, or, like 3 movements or like one line. Like, I want to be able to do multiple things, especially for life, right? Because life's chaotic. And I always like to say life doesn't happen in straight lines and right angles. So, you need to prepare for that. You need to prepare for things when they're a little funky. And like even lifting, like sometimes your lifts are going to be a little bit funky. The Westerns just happened. You go and look at the top lifts from that. Like people were hitting huge numbers and, knees were caving in. There were hip shifts. They're going for max weights. Things are going to go a little off. Your body's trying to find, okay, how do I find the best position to move this weight right now? And overstressing about being perfect and like really meticulous with your technique is just going to hinder your gains. So, sometimes you got to allow for a little bit of ugliness and also prepare for it. And it can really help you. One, with strength, and two, with resilience. Maybe I should always do these vlogs later. I feel like I just got a lot more to say and like I rant more. Might be better for getting more information out. Starting to feel it being after midnight. I might have to grunt through this set and dig deep to get through it. Getting a good stretch around my shoulder blade. Oh. 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 Felt kind of nice. Yeah, to wrap this all up, I mean, I've already said it, rehab needs to be challenging, right? So you have to work hard, and your rehab sessions shouldn't leave you feeling good. You should feel tired after. You should feel worked. Like a lot of the time, it should feel like a training session. And as you get further on in the rehab, it should look more and more like a training session. Like when I'm rehabbing someone's knee and they're a power lifter, I get them to do as much of a squat as they can and as much of a deadlift as they can to tolerance, right? So it's like, okay, what part can you do? Can you just do the walkouts of the squat? Okay, we're just going to do the walkouts. Can you do quarter squats, awesome. We're gonna do quarter squats and then work on other things too. But we're keeping the core movement close and we're working you hard, right? Like your right leg's affected. Okay, we're gonna do a lot of single leg work on that left leg to keep it as strong as possible or get it even stronger, right? Rehab shouldn't be easy. And if it doesn't challenge you, it doesn't change you. Thank you for watching. Now go out there and make some gains.